Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. Sunday evening. We're going to talk about USB keys. We're going to talk about encryption. We're going to talk about Bitlocker and VeraCrypt and James Lopp as well, the guy that has done this already for many long years. And we're going to talk as the very first thing about somebody as a negative example who did use, or the most famous negative example, let's say it like this. Somebody who did save all his Bitcoins about 10 years ago or so on a USB key and then lost them all because he lost the password to that one single USB key and he didn't have a backup, unfortunately. So yeah, let's get into it. Oh yeah, and obviously we're gonna discuss like pros, cons, why you shouldn't, why you should do, what you shouldn't, the best methods, and so on. So let's kick this off with CBC News. Bring that up. And this is the man. This man owns 321 million in Bitcoin, but he can't access it because he lost his password. So Stefan Thomas has now, I believe, so this article is a little bit older, from 2021. The last update that I heard about him is that he has only 2 guesses left. And what he basically has, I'm also going to paste the article actually in the chat for everybody. So basically, he stored all his information on just one USB key, one flash drive, and then he just left it there. I think it was like 7,000 Bitcoins, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 7,002 Bitcoins, because he got paid in 2011. Back in 2011, he produced an animated video explaining how digital currency works. And then he just didn't look into it. Later, obviously, Bitcoin went high prices, and then he tried to gain back on it. He couldn't access it anymore. Now, he specifically used the Iron Key USB drive, which has a specific encryption module on it that encrypts the information, whatever you save on it, and it cannot be read out unless you enter the password before. So you have this like design. There is an extra chip, not just the memory itself. And otherwise, it's just a normal USB key. And this is what you ideally want to prevent happening to you. Yeah. So let's go over some methods and why people are actually trying to do this. In the very beginning, when you have just your crypto and you create your seed for the first time, especially in the early days when there weren't even any like hardware wallets around, everything was new in crypto, people tried to find like methods to keep their keys away. And since everything is digital, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh yeah, I'm gonna store my seed phrase in a digital medium, but I want it removed from my normal PC stuff. I want it removed from my everyday PC, my everyday laptop, my everyday Mac, or whatever. And back in the day, most people in the early days, they would even generate their private key pairs and then later on also their seed phrases straight on the PC. There is this very old website actually. Do I still have that? I don't think I have it saved here anymore. Ah, there it is. Yeah. Let's bring that up. So this is one of those bitrot aggregates to rock. You see the little dots here. They create the entropy, the seed, and then it will, you can also type in some random characters to create more entropy and so on. But basically, it will then generate the seed phrase, the private key for you, which you would then write down on a piece of paper. And when people did this, they left it initially just on the PC. They had it in their in the normal wallet. They had the wallet or file.wallet, whatever they had set up. And after some time, they tried to mitigate the risk of having it on the PC, which seems smart. And the first go-to was just have it on a USB key. Now, this basically removes the issue with digital theft. So meaning anything that's a virus, that's malware, and a keylogger at the time of the use. But it doesn't remove any of the other issues that you create for yourself. Once you have the key outside, you still need to take care of redundancy. You still need to watch out for issues with the drive itself. There is physical theft that is possible for the USB keys, and just loss, your own personal loss that can happen, or you forgetting it. So there are a few things that you need to think about when creating a secure place for your seeds in general. And those are the digital theft, the physical theft, social engineering, any trust issues, collusion, and some of those you can cover with the USB key. And most people do this just because it's convenient, it's easy to access, and it's something that they're familiar with because they just have USB keys lying around. They are comfortable with the quick plug in, and in the minds, it seems like, oh, once it's removed from the PC, it is safe. It's stored only on the USB key, and nobody can access it. Now, ideally, you also want to have a good password on your USB drive when you do that. And that is, if you just have no password at all, that's the worst case. If you have something simple like just password or 1 2 3 4 5, your birth date, your any simple word that's a dictionary word, it can be easily brute forced. So if at all you do these kind of things, you should at least have a very long password, which is going to be 20, maybe 30 characters long to be sufficient. Or you have one that has the encryption already built in, so you just type in the password on the device itself. Then the other option is to use what is called Bitlocker or VeraCrypt for it. And I'm going to show actually real quick what these softwares do. So the first one is Bitlocker. This is what it looks like in Windows. Basically, this is available only on Windows 10. It was available from Windows 8, but now it's available on Windows 10 Pro and Windows 11 Pro versions. It's not available with the normal Windows versions. I'm just gonna show real quick here what it looks like. So you right click, and there is the option turn on Bitlocker. I'll give you some It's gonna drive, prepare the Bitlocker. You can encrypt the drive. Gives you some warnings and explanation how everything works. And then you can actually do that not just for a normal thumb drive, flash drive, or USB key, but you can do it to your whole disk drive, like your Windows partition or another extra partition. And then once it's activated, you can also use the how you're gonna unencrypt it. So that's the password or the flash drive. You can set things up, and then you use it as normal. So there is a wide array of documentation available for Bitlocker. All this stuff. Most of the stuff is for enterprise solutions and so on, like lawyers and companies, big companies that need to have privacy, security, and so on. And one of the things that you also get is you get cloud storage actually on your Microsoft account for the recovery key. And this is the guide on how to find your Bitlocker recovery key. Basically, you go to your account, devices, recovery key, and there you will find a list of all your keys, which is optional, by the way. So obviously for crypto, you shouldn't be using it if you do this. So the other option to encrypt your data on a USB key is VeraCrypt, which is a French company. And they basically took over the project kinda from an older project, which is the TrueCrypt guys. And once Bitlocker came around, the TrueCrypt guys kind of stopped, and they even said like, "Hey, Bitlocker is actually so good now. It's no use having something extra." But the main difference between VeraCrypt and Bitlocker is that one is an enterprise solution made by a giant company and it's closed source. And VeraCrypt is like the decentralized, the open source, the free software that everybody can use whenever they want. And another big difference is that VeraCrypt actually allows you to use multiple scripts. The Bitlocker only has, what was it, AES, was it both? I think it was both. Yeah, it was AES 128 and 256 bit keys. But on VeraCrypt, you also have Serpent and Twofish that you can use for the encryption. And it's basically very easy. It's the same process. You have your volumes, you create the container, or you just use a whole thumb drive, a whole flash drive that you encrypt. You set it up, you choose your encryption. So here, here you would have the additional encryption options of selecting Serpent and Twofish. Or there are actually a few schemes that you can set up where it's multiple in a row cascading. So you can have AES and then Twofish, or AES and then Serpent, and you have more settings basically. The Bitlocker is kind of a straight solution where it's easy to use, easy to go through, very convenient, but it doesn't give you that many options. It's kind of a foolproof design. And with this one, you get way more options to choose what you do and so on. Select the volume size and so on. You set your password, the formatting, and so on. I don't want to go too much into the details, but yeah, you can download it here. So I'm also gonna drop this in the chat so people have the website. They got a latest release. Beta is from August. That's 1.5 months ago. So they're bringing updates every now and then, but they're kind of slowish with updates. You might not always get the most recent software, the most recent bug fixes, and so on. It takes a while. But yeah. So how would you do that? Ideally, and what are the best practices to set something up like this? Since you want something to be air-gapped, and you want the data as removed as possible from any device that is that is connected to the internet, you would want an already air-gapped laptop or PC that has been sufficiently cleaned up, so everything reset, only trusted software installed, no internet connection, no Wi-Fi, nobody had access to it before you. You were the one setting it up. And then on there, you would install the encryption methods that you're going to use, one of those, the Bitlocker or the VeraCrypt. Or you got this iron key specific USB key that comes already with the AES encryption on the device itself. You would then set up the encryption, store the data, whatever you want there to be stored. And in this specific use case, it would be the private key or the seed phrase. And then you would remove it, and you would ideally have 3 copies of those to place into different locations. This is the general setup for this, and what people have recommended in the past doing, especially in the early days of Bitcoin and early days of crypto. So what are the pros and the cons of that? Ooh, what's happening to my camera? What are the pros and the cons of that? So first of all, yeah, it's convenient, right? It's super convenient to have the USB key. You have it ready. You can even copy paste. And we also have a question real quick on the side note. Hello, thank you for joining. Sylvan, VeraCrypt can also be used as a portable program, meaning you can have it on a stick and launch it from there without installing on your computer. Yeah, that's true. Most of those like special software, even the bit address that I showed earlier, this one. Most of the software that is designed to be used in this way to create something in regards to security, they are standalone software. So you can run the software without having to install it on a PC. You just execute it and it runs. And for this one, this website, they I'm not sure if it's like down here. Brain wallet details. I think it's in the GitHub, but they have basically like a guide on, yeah, you generate this on an offline or an air-gapped PC. You at least disconnect your internet, then you generate so that it's offline. Nobody can steal your keys, and then you're going to use it later on. Basically, this is how people created cold storage and back in the day. And most of this type of software, if you like save the HTML file or you save a thing like VeraCrypt. Oh yeah, there, it's finished generating. And then, to safeguard this wallet, blah, 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 blah. So you can use most of those programs without installing and just standalone tick and it runs. And you can encrypt, decrypt, whatever you need. Thank you for that comment. Back to the pros and cons. This method is, or at least seems to be, less risky, because the moment that you store your seed phrase off the device that you're actively using, that means that if something like a malware or a virus comes onto your system after you have already done this, then it's less likely that the funds are taken away from you and stolen. And the device itself, because it's a common device, it's usually not susceptible to targeted theft. No, even if if somebody breaks into your home, usually they try to steal valuables that are like jewelry, expensive TVs, I don't know, maybe your whole PC, anything like that. But a small USB key that can also be hidden away, stashed away somewhere, is usually overlooked and not targeted for theft unless somebody knows that you are storing Bitcoin, or you are into digital stuff and so on. So that there are those pros, and there also are negatives. And one of the negatives is that the biggest negative is that you are actually typing your seed phrase into a keyboard at this point of time. So whenever you generate your seed phrase or have to store it somehow digitally, you have the issue that there is a trace left behind whenever you type it. It is in the RAM, it is on the hard disk, it's in the page file of your system while it's running. It is maybe in some kind of buffers, like even nowadays with devices like mice and keyboards, they have additional buffers that save data, or they are capable of saving data. So if you have like some kind of supply chain attack where the keyboard is actually storing data, and then the next time it connects to the internet, it's sending out that data that you type in, and it somehow recognizes that you typed in a private key which has a specific format, or you typed in seed words which are only 2048 words, it would be rather simple to have a device that is compromising any of your digital devices. Robert Keller says, what? This is why you have a cheap or old computer offline completely. Yeah, this is so to mitigate these issues, you would have something that's verified and air gapped and never ever is connecting to the internet ever again after you set it up. This is how the old school Bitcoiners, how the old school cypherpunks did it. Yeah, exactly, on an old laptop. Cheers for the comment. Yeah. What was I? We had the information is stored in the RAM, in the buffers, and so on. And any malware, any virus that is specifically targeting those areas can get the information out or catch it while you're typing it into the keyboard. So this is like one of the biggest mantras. I'm going to repeat it again. Usually, you never want to type your seed words into any keyboard, whatever. And some people also try to mitigate it by using multiple input styles. So you can use your your normal keyboard. You can use the on-screen digital keyboard, for example, in Windows. What is it called? It's in the disability on-screen keyboard. It's called in Windows. It's for kind of disabilities or convenience and so on. And you can also copy paste information just to set it up, or do it from like different machines. So on one machine, you enter a few of the words. Then on the second machine, you enter a few of the words. And then on the third machine, you enter the rest of the words. This way, you can mitigate the amount of words if one of those devices is compromised, that it's going to be sent away all at the same time. So now only a part of it is compromised. Sylvan says, just don't do these things in a digital way at all. Some evil keyboards have built-in keylogger. Yes, exactly. That's what I was talking about. So you're kind of kind of going advanced on me, because this is actually the end result of this. So I'm bringing this information and showing what people did in the past and what you shouldn't do. Very good Constantine. Thanks a lot, Baum. Yeah, you're welcome. This is mainly to show people why they shouldn't do this. But even if they do it, to have at least the best practices. But yeah. So then the next negative is actually bitrot and data loss. So what most people don't know is because they have these devices, these USB devices, for years and years and years, and they usually work, sometimes for 10, 15 years. It's not an issue. But if you only have one device, you only have one backup of your seed words, and you store it on a USB key, and then you have a critical failure on that RAM chip, on the flash, on the flash modules, the data on there is unrecoverable. And on top of that, you also need an electrical charge for those USB sticks to sufficiently work. Like the solid state chips, the part that is actually storing the ones and zeros, the positive and the negative charge, those can get discharged over a long period of time. So if you want it for long-term storage, for cold storage, and you place it somewhere in a, I don't know, in the basement, in a wet environment, wet, cold environment, there is actually a high chance of the energy in those modules dissipating faster, and then the result would be that the USB key is actually not readable anymore. There is data loss. You plug it in, and then the data is gone. Maybe it's just a little bit of data that is lost, a few ones and zeros, but that's already enough to destroy the encryption on it, or to destroy the word and make the whole file where your seed words are stored in unreadable. And you can get around that kind of by having the redundancy of having free, but it's still a big negative that over time it's just going away. The data is just lost easily. Then another big negative is that it's actually susceptible to EMPs. So this is like a horrible scenario where what if an atomic bomb explodes, or what if a really, really big sun eruption hits Earth? So we probably will have bigger issues. But if it's something smaller and not all of the Earth is like in an atomic war or whatever, maybe it's just like one explosion or on a smaller scale. And there, even if all of the atomic bombs are exploded, they can still be localized in specific areas. There can be also smaller EMPs in a war scenario, for example. Those could destroy your backups, and then you probably are not going to put them in different continents. So if you're just in one city, all your backups might be gone at once, just from one EMP, from one search. Yeah. And then they are also susceptible to any other physical issue that's like a fire, earthquake, water damage, erosion, anything like that can damage and make the USB key not working anymore. The amount of failures on even on one single USB key that doesn't even have all those additional encryption things can be quite big, because there is not just one thing that can break. There are multiple little chips on it. The only the module can only the flash memory can be broken. There can be just a few soldering bits that can break off, and that's then maybe it's still recoverable in that state, but it still creates a big issue of having to deal it, having to troubleshoot it, and that usually is already way too big of an issue for the average user than like non-technical, non-tech savvy users. There is the USB connection itself that can wear out, and the USB chip can also get damaged. So there are all these little things that can negatively impact how this one device is working, and then every time the result is a critical failure where you are not able to recover the seed phrase from this device. Yeah. Then the next thing is the evil maid attack. So basically, whenever you have a small USB device that's convenient and you store it at home, or somebody knows that you store it in a USB device that has all your seed phrases and the full access, there is a chance that somebody might be able to get to it when you are not watching. So if you have it, for example, plugged into your home, you go to the toilet, and in the meantime, somebody gets to your PC, uses it because you conveniently left it there, and then you're also out of your crypto. And you might even not even know that the data was stolen at this point in time. If there is no encryption, if there is no password, then it's even easier, because whoever finds it, whoever gets access to it, immediately has the keys. So the encryption would at least reduce the chance of that, but it's still not ideal overall. No. So those are the negatives. Let's see. Let's summarize real quick. So let's see if I forgot anything. You want to encrypt your USB stick with a long password, make it intricate, long. You want to use the BitLocker or the VeraCrypt offline in an air-gapped and ideally in an amnesic operating system. Like there are some systems that you have only on a USB drive as well. For example, Tails OS, but it's also like very hard to use. It's a Linux-based system. They're kind of stupid nowadays with their setups, and they're pushing an agenda which is not open, kind of not, it goes against open source anymore. But there are solutions that allow you to create a PC that doesn't store anything in RAM, at least, but they're still wonky solutions. So watch out for that. If you do that, you should do at least the best you can do. So anything that's like completely resetting the RAM, not storing anything on a hard disk, not storing anything on a page file, and so on, is the best to use. You should use multiple devices, so 3 at least. Use multiple devices or multiple inputs to scatter the input. So on-screen keyboard, hardware keyboard, a little bit of typing here, a little bit of typing there, and so on. And then there is also the storing of the password or the passphrase to get into the drive. So you should store that apart. Somebody is asking a question. What is it? Hello, Mumut. Can you have more than one hidden wallet on a ledger? That's a little bit off topic, but I'll go into that in a second. And you have to also test the backup integrity in regular intervals. So if you do all that, you can kind of make it work, but it's still subpar to other solutions. And actually, I'm gonna show something. And that is Monsieur James Lopp. Let's see, it's gonna load. Hello, please load. There you go. So this is from a talk where James Lopp, it's a kind of a famous guy. Where is he? Come on, show me your face. There you go. So this is James Lopp. This is an older talk at Blockchain Lab from 2015, I believe, or 2018. Okay, from 2018, and he shared his like older mantra of doing this kind of type of security for recovery. And he's basically going exactly through this creation, and he's using VeraCrypt. So he goes create a encrypted file container on air-gapped machine with VeraCrypt, encrypt container with a randomly generated long passphrase that you generate via rolling dice. That's the password, sufficiently long. Then he's using Shamir secret sharing, Shamir secret sharing to split the decryption passphrase into your preferred setup. This is an M out of N scheme, and basically you have to make sure that you have the one that is fitting for you. Like if you have 7 people that are the executives, then you need something like 3 out of 7 or something to restore, that only enough trusted people come together to have the restoration. This is like for a emergency recovery situation that he is describing. And then he is copying the file onto an USB drive. So this is the Shamir secret sharing encryption that then is placed onto multiple USB keys. And he hands out the drives in a Faraday bags to will executors. So he is protecting from the EMP shock with the Faraday bags. Basically, it's just like a metal encasing that is protecting against the EMP or the sun flare. And he updates it annually to protect against bitrot. Annually meaning he has to make sure that the USBs are still working every year. Write down what you have done and provide detailed step-by-step instruction for how to recover the data if you're no longer around. Make sure you test your instructions. Yeah. So even he used this, my personal pre-Casa solution. He was working a long time at BitGo, and now he has this my Casa solution where they have a third party aiding you with the restoration and management of funds. I personally prefer self-custody, and I think you should too. Speaking of self-custody, let's go into the ledger question real quick. Can you have more than one hidden wallet on a ledger? The quick answer is you can have as many hidden wallets as you want, but it is kind of hard to deal with them on a ledger. And that is actually good, I believe, in my opinion. So if you're coming from the Trezor world, you probably know, let me bring this up actually. Let's bring up a screenshot of that. So because you can generate as many passphrases as you want, there is nothing stopping you from doing it. And on a Trezor, you have the input. Let me see if I have a picture of that as well. Should be in here. There you go. The hidden wallet, where you actually let's move myself in the hidden wallet, as in a Trezor, where you type in the passphrase straight into this thing. But on Trezor, that means because you're typing it into a keyboard, that it can be potentially caught by malware, by a keylogger. On the Ledger device, on the other hand, you are typing the passphrase every time into the device itself. But this is very cumbersome. So there are 2 options to do this on the Ledger. One is the pin passphrase. That means you can have an additional pin. Usually you unlock the device with your main pin, and then it unlocks the 24 seed words for the device and then generates the private keys from that. Then you have the attach to pin option, which allows you to have your passphrase to a secondary pin on the device. So your pin 1234 unlocks the first set of keys, and then your pin 5678, for example, would unlock the second hidden wallet or the passphrase wallet. Now, there is also a third option to do this, and this is the temporary passphrase, meaning for as long as the wallet is unlocked, the wallet is using the passphrase that you specify during setup of this option. And this one gets wiped whenever the device is disconnected or whenever you lock the device. So basically, every time you reset it, you can also then introduce a new hidden wallet, a new passphrase that you enter into the ledger device. And there are unlimited passphrases or hidden wallets that you can create with that. I hope that answers your question. It's just very cumbersome, because if you have a passphrase that's like 30 characters, and you should have a passphrase that's 30 characters, you're gonna have a hard time like clicking for a minute, because it's only 2 buttons and it's small display, and you have to like go through the whole alphabet back and forth. It's very cumbersome. None of the solutions that we have right now are like really ideal. On the Trezor, it's like, you're typing it into a keyboard, which is super, super bad. And on the Ledger, you're attaching it to pins, so you're basically storing it in the device, or you have to always type it on this like 2 little buttons. I hope in the future we have some kind of better input for the Ledger. That would be nice, so it's easier to input it without having it to be saved every time. But I don't know when we are gonna get to that future. So let's get back to the main topic, which is USB keys. Where were we? We discussed the Bitlocker, the VeraCrypt. We covered the flash drives. We went through the negatives and the positives. And we went through the James Lopp version of it. Yeah, that's basically it. So all in all, what would you save on a Bitlocker or VeraCrypt USB drive? Would it be the seed phrase? Do you want to store your passphrase on them? And I would say no, because the negatives outweigh by a long shot for the positives. This little convenience that you gain, but then you have all the negatives where whenever you want to reconnect it, whenever you have to set it up, you typed it into the keyboard. There are all the potential traps where you're gonna lose it just by mistake. You're gonna type it into a keyboard and then give it away to malware, or you have to, if you do it consciously, you have to then send all your funds, and for some things like time locks and stakes and so on, you might not even be able to send them away to a new address. This maybe works for like Bitcoin or just Ethereum that's not locked in. So I would not use it for the seed phrase. And basically the mantra that I should repeat is, you should never type your seed phrase into a keyboard. Whenever you have to do that, it's probably a scam, or it's probably a good way to get wrecked, even if it's just later down the line. How would you do that though? What is the better alternative? And the better alternative is metal. Metal doesn't degrade as easily. You don't have the issue that you're typing it into your keyboard, and you can generate the seed completely offline in a hardware wallet. And then ideally, if you have now let's get over the first one. So you have one backup in metal that's just the seed phrase. You only generated it on your ledger or your Trezor. Then you have your second seed phrase, which is stored in a secondary location for redundancy. And then you have your, actually, you should do 3. So you have a third one. And then you have your passphrases, which are stored in a completely different location, and also should be 3 backups of those. This solution is fireproof, it's waterproof, it's earthquake proof, it's corrosion proof. You never type it into your keyboard, and you're safe from most mishaps, and you don't have to manage it. So there is no bitrot, there is no annual checkup that you have to do. If you have it in metal and you generated your seeds online, you never type them into your keyboard, you can store them like this for 15, 20, 50 years. Your children can restore your backups and your seed phrase if you give them the means to do so without any issues. And Sylvan says, I only store things that are already digital on such drives, but I see that there's always room to learn, and you gave some good tips. That Faraday bag is smart. Might look for those as well. Yeah, cool. You're welcome. So what would you store though? And I think these solutions are okay and good to use for anything that is sensitive information that is related to crypto and you do not want anyone to get access to, but they're not as critical as your seed phrase. So that can be, for example, any trading information. Even you might not want to get hold of your public keys, so you can store them offline. You might want to store all your tax information and so on. Those are possible to store, and it's like less of an issue if those get stolen. And you have the additional security from the encryption and from them being offline, that there is less chance that they're gonna be accessed by a malicious party. For those, I think it's good to use. And also, the password encryption allows your PC or laptop, in case of theft, to not be accessible immediately, and then you can have some recourse, try to get it back and so on. Or if it's not recoverable at all, then usually the encryption is so good that nobody can recover the data anyway, especially if you have a good password. So you're good on that. And with that, I think we're done. We covered everything. Yeah, if you want to make your metal seeds, seed backups in your own yard, in your own garden, check out my, where is my streaming? Whoop. Check out my store, boundcrypto.etsy.com. You have a complete kit to make your seed backups. I'm gonna bring that up. Just updated the shop recently. Look at that. Seed backups, full metal, full kits. Check it out. Thanks for joining on the stream. Share, like, subscribe. Thanks for joining. Thanks for participating, Sylvan, Moonmat, Robert, and see you next week.